Standard financial advice doesn't work in 2026. If you follow the 50-30-20 rule today, you will retire broke. Here's the new formula for survival, because the economy you're living in isn't the economy those rules were written for. The 50-30-20 rule says spend 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings. Sounds reasonable, right? Except 50% of your income doesn't cover needs anymore. Not even close. Rent alone takes 40% in most cities. Add utilities, insurance, transportation, and you're already at 70% before food. The math doesn't work. You haven't eaten yet, haven't paid your student loans, haven't covered healthcare or childcare. And 30% on wants? That's supposed to be restaurants, hobbies, entertainment, the things that make life worth living. But your phone bill, internet, and mandatory subscriptions already eat half of that before you've had a single fun experience. As for 20% savings, most people following this advice are saving zero because the first two categories already consumed everything. This rule was created when rent was 25% of income, college was affordable, and healthcare didn't bankrupt you. The percentages stayed the same while the economic reality completely transformed around them. So people follow this obsolete framework, fail to make it work, and blame themselves for being bad with money. Meanwhile, every financial influencer keeps repeating the same formula like it's gospel truth. Here's what actually works now. Not what worked in 2008. What works today. The new reality is 70-0-30. 70% on absolute survival, 0% on wants initially, 30% on building an escape plan. Yes, 0 on wants. Not forever. But right now, today, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have a wants budget. You have a survival budget. Housing, basic food, utilities, minimum transportation, essential insurance. That's 70% minimum in most markets. Everything else gets eliminated temporarily. Not because you don't deserve joy, but because you're in financial triage. When you're bleeding money, you don't worry about comfort. You stop the bleeding first. That remaining 30% is your weapon. This is what builds your way out. It's split three ways. 10% to a $1,000 emergency buffer. 10% to destroying your highest interest debt. 10% to increasing your income. The emergency buffer comes first. $1,000 sitting there so a flat tire doesn't trigger a financial crisis. This single buffer breaks the cycle of emergency debt that keeps people trapped. Once you have that buffer, the second 10% goes to debt, specifically the highest interest rate debt trying to kill you. Credit card interest at 22% is wealth destruction. Every month you carry that balance, you're paying your future self to stay poor. Minimum payments mean you'll pay for 30 years. Aggressive payments mean you're free in 2. The final 10% is the most important. It goes to building skills that increase your income. Not random courses, strategic ones that have a clear path to more money in 6 to 12 months. Because the real problem isn't your budget, it's that you don't make enough money for modern cost of living. You can't budget your way out of this. You can't coupon your way to wealth. You have to earn more. When you increase your income 20% while keeping expenses flat, everything changes overnight. Now you have room to actually save. Room to build wealth. Room to eventually reintroduce wants. Phase 2 is 60-10-30. Once your income grows, needs drop to 60%, wants get 10%, and 30% still builds your future. 10% on wants isn't much, but it's enough to feel human again. A dinner out twice a month. A hobby you actually enjoy. That 30% now shifts. Less goes to debt because you're crushing it. More goes to actual investing. This is where compound interest finally gets to do its job. But it only works if you survive long enough to feed it. Phase 3 is 50-20-30. Now, the traditional framework actually works because your income supports your life. Needs are 50% because you negotiated a raise, moved strategically, or built additional income. Wants are 20% because you earned it. 30% investing because you're building wealth. This isn't 3 months. This is 3 to 5 years of strategic moves, each phase building on the last. Most people never make it because they try to live phase 3 on a phase 1 income. They want the experiences, the lifestyle, the comfort now, so they finance it and trap themselves permanently. 5 years of discipline creates 20 years of freedom. 5 years of lifestyle inflation creates 20 years of payment plans. Your friends will think you're cheap. They'll judge your old car, your small apartment, your lack of vacations. 5 years later, they'll be making the same car payment while you're building actual wealth. Here's what you do today. Pull up your actual spending from last month, not what you think you spend. Categorize everything into true needs versus everything else. Be honest, Netflix is not a need. If your needs are over 70%, you're in phase one whether you like it or not. Accept it. Build a 70-0-30 budget. Cut the wants temporarily. Attack the plan. Find your highest interest debt. That's your primary target after you build your $1,000 buffer. Research what skills in your industry are worth 20% more income, not random skills, targeted ones. Set a 6-month goal to acquire that skill. Budget part of your 10% toward it. Execute for 90 days without deviation. Track it weekly. Watch the small wins compound. You'll notice something shift around week 6. The constant anxiety starts fading because you finally have a buffer. You'll sleep better knowing one unexpected bill won't destroy you. At 6 months, you'll have less debt, more skills, and probably some income opportunities you didn't see before. That's when you negotiate the raise or switch to the better-paying job that your new skills qualified you for. Your income jumps 15 to 25%. Suddenly, the budget that felt impossible now has breathing room. You graduate to phase 2. 60-10-30. Life feels manageable for the first time in years. The trap here is lifestyle inflation. You get the raise and immediately increase your wants to match. Resist. Keep wants at 10% even though you could afford 15. Bank that difference. Let your investments grow faster instead. This is how you collapse the timeline from 5 years to 3. By year 2 or 3, you're in phase 3. 50-20-30. Needs are comfortable. Wants are real. Investing is aggressive. Your net worth starts that exponential curve everyone talks about, but nobody explains how to reach. You look back at the person following 50-30-20 and barely surviving, and you realize you're not that person anymore. Same income. Same starting point. Completely different outcomes based solely on framework. The old rule keeps you comfortable enough to stay stuck. The new framework makes you uncomfortable enough to escape. 3 years of discomfort or 30 years of struggle. Those are your options. The 50-30-20 rule is designed for an economy that doesn't exist anymore. It assumes housing is affordable, education is cheap, healthcare is reasonable, and wages keep up with costs. None of those things are true. So following advice built on false assumptions guarantees failure. The 70-0-30 framework is built for the economy you actually live in, not the one boomers remember. It acknowledges that you're probably underpaid, overhoused, and drowning in necessary expenses through no fault of your own. And it gives you a path forward that's based on reality, not wishful thinking. Will it be comfortable? No. Will it require sacrifice? Absolutely. Will it work? Yes, if you actually do it. The difference between people who escape financial stress and people who stay trapped isn't luck or income. It's whether they adapt their strategy to match reality or keep following advice from a different economy. The 50-30-20 rule is dead. It died when rent hit 40% and student loans became mortgages. Stop following it. Stop feeling guilty that you can't make it work. It's not you, it's the framework. Start with 70-0-30. Build your buffer. Crush your debt. Invest in income-generating skills. Graduate to 60-10-30 when your income supports it. Reach 50-20-30 when you've earned it. This is the path. Not the comfortable path. Not the path they taught you. The path that actually works. Adapt or accept.